Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for joining in. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapatakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namo Vishnu Padhaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradhayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauradushi Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhakta Avataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakti Shaktikam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadale Krishnaya Krishna Vaksaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Raghavindinatarinam Nandamadavam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. So Dandat Pranams to all the devotees. Thank you all for joining in for our teachings of Lord Chaitanya session. So we are on chapter 1 where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is teaching Rupa Goswami, or rather teaching us through Rupa Goswami. So we ended our last session with the mad elephant offense, which is the Vaishnava Aprad, to blaspheme the devotees who dedicated their lives in propagating the holy names of the Lord all over the world. So the most dangerous animal is a mad elephant. Prabhupada explains how it can spoil. Tehes mehes kar deta hai, like that. Prabhupada is saying, if a mad elephant enters a nicely trimmed garden, what it will do? It will damage, right? It will tremendously damage the plants and the trees. It will uproot everything. Like that, it will create a havoc there. Similarly, an offense at the lotus feet of a Vaishnava also will create such a havoc in one's spiritual life and in one's spiritual advancement. So you saw how we have to avoid Vaishnava Aprad in our dealings with all kinds of devotees, right? And even all kinds of living entities also. We saw how Krishna is personally present as Paramatma in every living entity, right? So when the Lord is forgiving and is appearing as Paramatma in every living entity's heart, then who are we to correct or to ridicule or to criticize, right? We are nobody, right? Unless we have the position of a guru or we are accepted as a guru by a person, and that person asks us. Until such time, we should not be telling anything to anyone, or we should not even be talking about such a person to anybody else also. Should not be doing that. All right, so let's continue reading from teachings of Lord Chaitanya. Today we want to start off with continuing the offenses in the holy names of the Lord. So let's go ahead. Devotees can raise your hands and then we can start reading. Anyone wants to read? Okay, let me start and then devotees can raise your hands. An offense to a pure devotee is one of the 10 offenses against the holy name. The first offense is to blaspheme the great devotees who have tried to spread the glories of the holy name all over the world. The greatest offender at the feet of the holy name is the rascal who is envious of such devotees. So what is the root cause of offenses? It is envy, right? And envy is the reason we are also in this material world, right? So here Prabhupada is saying very beautifully that that person is a rascal who is who is complaining about devotees, who is talking ill of devotees, primarily because he is envious of them. Okay, Vrishabhanu Kanya Mataji, go ahead. The holy name of Krishna is not different from Krishna, from there.
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam. The holy
Hare Krishna.
An offense from there, Mataji. An offense to a pure devotee is one of the 10 offenses against the holy name. The first offense is to blaspheme the great devotee who have tried to spread the glories of the holy name all over the world. The greatest offender at the feet of the holy name is the rascal who is envious of such devotees. The holy name of Krishna is non-different from Krishna, and Lord Krishna cannot tolerate offense against a pure devotee who, following the order of his spiritual master, is spreading the holy name all over the world. The second offense is to deny that Lord Vishnu is the absolute truth. Since there is no difference between the Lord and his name, qualities, form, and pastimes or activities, one who sees a difference is considered an offender. The Lord being supreme, no one is equal to or greater than him. Consequently, one who thinks that the name of some demigod is equal to the Lord's name is the offender. The Supreme Lord and the demigod should never be considered on the same level. The third offense, Mataji, scroll it, please. The third offender is considered the bona fide spiritual master to be common man. The fourth offense is to blaspheme the Vedic literature, the Vedas, and such corollaries as the Purnas. The fifth offense is to consider the glories of the holy name to be exaggeration. The sixth offense is to imagine a perverted meaning of the holy name. The seventh offense is to commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name. It is understood that by chanting the holy name, one is freed from sinful reactions, but this does not mean that one should perversely act sinfully on the strength of chanting. That is the greatest offense. The eighth offense is to equate chanting the holy name with religious rituals, austerity, renunciations, or sacrificial performances. Chanting the holy name is as good as associating with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whereas these pious activities are not only means of approaching the Supreme Personality of Godhead and then can also be performed for some material reason. It is an offense to equate them with chanting the holy name. The ninth offense is to preach the glories of the holy name of God to a faithless person. The 10th and the last offense is to maintain material attachments even after hearing and chanting the holy name of God. The idea is that by chanting the holy name without offense, one is elevated to a liberated platform where one is freed from all material attachment. And thus, if one chants the holy names and still has material uh, attachments, he is committing an offense. There are still other factors.
Oh, sorry, Mataji, I was on mute. Okay, so thank you. So these are the 10 offenses that we chant every day in the morning, isn't it? Just before the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. After the Sikshashtakam, we chant all these 10 offenses. Why? Because the more we chant these offenses and we mean whatever we are chanting, then we try to develop these things which are very, very essential for us to chant in a way that is pleasing to Guru and Gauranga. Right? So the first and the foremost offense we already read last time in great detail, which is a mad elephant offense. Apart from that, there are other offenses like considering the names of demigods, like Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma to be equal to independent names of Lord Vishnu, All right. And also an important offense that we need to avoid here is to commit sinful activities on the strength of the chanting. Right. Some say that I've chanted Hare Krishna, so now I can do anything throughout the day. And then tomorrow again I will chant Hare Krishna. In that way, it is like Prabhupada explains in a lecture how this is like a Christian, right? A person who goes to the church and he does what is called a confession, right? He does a confession to the Father in the church, saying that I have done so many sins in the past week, and the Father is saying, okay, so so I give you this what do you call forgiveness, like that, right? So I give you forgiveness for it. And then what does he do? Okay, he thanks the Father, probably gives him some money or some donation, like that. And then he goes home, and then the next Monday to Friday, it gives him a license to actually perform sinful actions, right? So this is what is mentioned in this verse of offenses to be avoided, that namno baladiyasya papa buddhi. On the strength of chanting the holy name, I should not be committing offenses, right? So but how did Ajamil actually get delivered? Although he was also chanting the holy name of the Lord, he was also committing a lot of aparad. I mean, he was not committing aparad, he was committing sinful activities, right? Because he did not associate with any Vaishnava. Same we can say of Jagai Madai also, right? They also committed a lot of sinful activities, but the only favorable thing for them was that they did not have association of Vaishnavas. They do not commit any Vaishnava aparad because they didn't even know a Vaishnava, right? Even then, when Madai actually hit Nityananda Prabhu, that time Chaitanya Mahaprabhu got very angry. But Nityananda Prabhu, because of his own mercy, he told the Lord to deliver Madai and Jagai also. So in this way, Ajamil got delivered. So I will also commit sinful activities and chant Hare Krishna, right? Ajamil did not chant the name of Narayan thinking that it will counteract the sinful activities. He just called out the name of Narayan because it was his son's name, incidentally. With the grace of the Lord, he named his son as Narayan, right? So that was not Nam Aparad, that was Nam Abhasa. That means you call someone indirectly, right? You call the Lord's name because the Lord's name happens to be the name of your child or the name of your, near and dear one whom you call regularly every day, right? So only devotees will name their children as the names of the Lord, isn't it? Right? Otherwise, even Ajamil, right? Initially, he was very pious. That's why, by the mercy of the Lord only, he named his own son Narayan. So he was delivered not because he chanted the holy name thinking that it will contract his sins. He did not even know that he was committing sins, right? Because of his past conditioning, and because he saw something, which was not a proper sight, and he got carried away by it. So he indulged in sinful activities, right? He did not do it as a counteractive measure, because I'm calling out the name of Narayan, because I'm doing some pious activities, I will also do some sinful activities. The sins and pious activities do not nullify each other. That is a equation or the mathematics given by the Lord. If we don't do good activities, we don't do bad activities, and then we do good activities and then we do bad activities, and then they nullify each other. Never does it happen like that, right? So for the good activities, we will get pious credits. For the sinful activities, we will get bad reactions. We will get sinful reactions. So in this way, even in the progress of bhakti, if we think that I'm chanting Hare Krishna, because of that I should get counteracted for all of my sinful reactions, it does not happen that way. Even it does not nullify our between pious and sinful reactions. What to talk of devotional activities? Devotional activities are to be done for the pleasure of the Lord and not for contracting one's own sinful activities. And of course, the last one is to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions. This is especially for practicing devotees. Right? We have a lot of knowledge, but because we don't have the sincerity, right? And what happens? We continuously want to endeavor for materialistic things, right? So we need to have a balance in life, right? We need to be regulated in our life. We need to balance our spiritual and material activities, because like someone was saying in the class today, right? It is not a 100 meters run that, just for 10 minutes I practice kar lunga and then I can do whatever I want. No, this is a lifelong race. We need to run. We need to hold the energy. We need to focus on the important things and need to be regulated. Only then it is a long run that we have run. It's not that simply aaj ek din kar lunga. Sometimes, we do that. 1 day austerity, what do we do? Okay, 1 day only. Now, after that, day after tomorrow, I will eat nicely. Let me just do practice 1 day austerity, right? So like that, some are like that. But our mission here is to attain Krishna Prema. And for that, we have to follow a regulated life throughout our life, right? We have to practice something that we can sustain in this entire lifetime, right? Because we want to remember Krishna at the end of our life. So we have to be Krishna conscious throughout our life. We need to practice something that we can sustain throughout our life, and that is why we are studying all this. The Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, all of them gives us the knowledge. They give us the benefit of following these austerities, right? The human life is meant for tapasya. It is not meant for sense gratification. Why? Because this tapasya is actually going to yield a result which will be eternal. It's not fleeting like the pleasures of this material world. And finally, this is the most important offense, which is said to be the root of all other offenses. What is that? It is also inattentive. It is also offensive to be inattentive while chanting the holy names of the Lord. If you are inattentive, then what do? We do multitasking. We do talking in between chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. That means, the Krishna is sitting in front of us and we are telling Krishna, you're not important. I have something else which is important. I have to talk about something else which is important. So that is what we are telling Krishna. Would we even do it if the president of India is with us? If that person is sitting in front of us, we would forget the entire world. We will only talk to him, please him, that I discuss with him whatever we want to discuss. Right? But what are we doing with the Supreme Personality of Godhead? We are talking, we are walking. Sometimes we cannot sit. Sometimes we are thinking what I have to cook. Right? So in this way, we are not realizing the importance, right? The familiarity breeds contempt. Every day we are doing it. So we should not allow such familiarity to breed contempt. Every day, that is why we are reciting again and again. It is an offense to be inattentive while chanting the holy names of the Lord. Those 2 hours, if we dedicated towards chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, then the rest of our day is taken care of. Krishna will help us to fight with Maya. Ma Manusmara Yudhyacha. Fight with Maya while being conscious of Krishna. These 2 hours we have to dedicatedly give to Krishna. Okay, so let's move forward. There are other factors also which can disturb the plant of devotional service. So the other day we were talking about the weeds in the growth of our bhakti creeper. What are those weeds? Desire for glory. Then the weeds could be our talking ill about other devotees, being envious of other devotees, being jealous, Gramya Katha, talking about things not related to Krishna. All of these are weeds. And these things you have to identify immediately to cut them. Otherwise, they will spoil our bhakti or they will disturb the creeper of bhakti like that. Okay, so let's move forward. What are the other weeds that also grow along with bhakti that we need to be careful of? Okay, Manasi Mataji, go ahead.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
There are also other factors which disturb the plant of devotional service. Along with this plant, the weeds of material desires also grow. When a person advances in bhakti, it is natural that many persons will come to him requesting to become disciples and will offer him some material gains. If one is attracted by a large number of disciples and material conveniences offered by these disciples and forgets his duty as a bona fide master, the growth of the plant will be impeded. Simply by taking advantage of material conveniences, one may become addicted to enjoying material comforts. It is also considered to be a disadvantage to desire liberation. The only desire should be the desire to render service. Neglect of restrictions and prohibitions is also disadvantageous. The prohibitions are mentioned in the authorized scriptures.
Mataji, where are you reading? Sorry.
From my book.
If one is attracted by a large number of disciples offering material conveniences, can you read from there?
Yeah, if one is attracted by a large number of disciples and material conveniences offered by these disciples and forgets his duty as a bona fide master, the growth of the plant will be impeded. Simply by taking advantage of material conveniences, one may become addicted to enjoying material comforts. It is also considered to be disadvantageous to desire liberation. The only desire should be the desire to render service. Neglect of restrictions and prohibitions is also disadvantageous. The prohibitions are mentioned in the authorized scriptures. One should not indulge in illicit sex life, intoxication, meat eating, or gambling. These things are forbidden to one who is attempting devotional service. If one does not follow these principles strictly, there may be a severe disturbance in the discharge of devotional service. If one is not particularly careful, even by watering the plant of devotional service, unnecessary weeds will grow and hamper progress. The idea is that when one waters a garden, not only does the desired plant grow more rapidly, but the unwanted plants grow also. If the gardener does not see these impediments and take them out, they will overcome and choke the plant of devotion. If, however, one is careful to guard against the growth of unwanted plants, the plant of devotion grows luxuriantly, and reaches the ultimate goal of Vrindavan. When the living entity engaged in devotional service relishes the fruit of love of Godhead, he forgets all religious ritual and improvements in his economic condition. He is no longer desired to satisfy his senses, and he no longer desires to become one with the Supreme Lord by merging into his effulgence. There are many phases of spiritual knowledge and transcendental bliss. On one platform are the ritualistic sacrifices recommended in the Vedas, the execution of austerities and pious duties, and the practice of mystic yoga. These all reward different results to the performer. The rewards of these practices, however, appear to be very glittering as long as one is not elevated to the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Love of God is dormant in everyone, and it can be awakened from its dormant position by the execution of pure devotional service, just as a person bitten by a serpent can be awakened by ammonia. After speaking in this way
Hare
about
Krishna. Thank you, Mother.
thank you.
Hari Bol. So Shravanadi Shuddha Chitta Karaya Udaya. That's what is the essence of the last two paragraphs. Right? How do we revive our dormant love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead? By Shravanadi. Shravan, by hearing about the Lord, what happens? Shuddha Chitta. Our heart will get purified. And then Karaya Udaya. What happens? The dormant love of God, which is there in everybody's heart, will awaken. Right? So when the desire to serve the Lord will not awaken by simply continuing to satisfy our sensual pleasures. Rather, it will arise by performing austerity. What is that austerity? The austerity is to do things which we may not like. Right? It is, Prabhupada gives example in Bhagavad Gita, one of the purports to Bhagavad Gita verse, how something may seem like poison in the beginning, but it is actually nectar in the end. Whereas sense gratification may seem to be nectar in the beginning, but it is actually poisonous in the end. So a devotee has a long-term vision, right? He does not like to satisfy his senses, right? Even to the extent of actually merging with the Lord. Why? Because he knows that this is not going to result in bliss in the long run, right? So basically, he tries to satisfy the senses of the Lord because he knows this is the formula to actually attain bliss in the long run. Right? Okay, let's move ahead. After speaking in this way, okay, Sudha Mataji, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Pranam. After speaking in this way about pure devotional service, Lord Chaitanya began to describe that service and its symptoms to Rupa Goswami. He explained that in pure devotional service, there can be no desire other than the desire to advance in Krishna consciousness. In Krishna consciousness, there is no scope for worshipping any demigod or even any other form of Krishna, nor is there room for indulgence in speculative empiric philosophy of fruitive activity. One should be free from all these contaminations. A devotee should accept only those things that are favorable for keeping his body and soul together, and should reject those things that increase the demands of the body. Only the bare necessities for bodily maintenance should be accepted. By making one's bodily necessities secondary, one can primarily devote his time to the cultivation of Krishna consciousness through the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. Pure devotional service means engaging all one's senses in the service of the Lord. At the present moment, our senses are all designated because the body is designated. So we think that our body belongs to a particular society or a particular country or a particular family. In this way, the body is bound by so many designations. Similarly, the senses belong to the body, and when the body is subject to such designations, the senses are also. Thus, one engages the senses on behalf of family, society, nation, and so on. When the senses are so engaged, one cannot cultivate Krishna consciousness. The senses must be purified, and this is possible when one purely understands that he belongs to Krishna and that his life belongs to Krishna. In other words, that his identity is to be an eternal servant of Krishna. In this way, one can engage his senses in the service of the Lord, and such engagement is called pure devotional service. A pure devotee accepts the transcendental loving service of the Lord but rejects all kinds of liberation for his personal sense gratification. This is stated by Lord Kapila in Srimad Bhagavatam 3.29, 11 to 14, in his explanation of the nature of pure devotional service. As soon as a pure devotee hears the glories and transcendental qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is seated in everyone's heart, his mind at once flows toward the Lord, just as the waters of the Ganges flow down toward the sea. Such spontaneous attraction of the devotee's mind to the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead signifies pure devotional service. Devotional service is pure when one engages in the service of the Supreme Lord without any selfish motive and without being hampered by any material impediment. The pure devotee does not desire to live on the same planet as the Supreme Lord, nor does he desire the same opulence as the Lord, nor does he desire to have the same form as the Lord, nor to live with him side by side, nor to merge into his existence. Even if the Lord offers the pure devotee such rewards, he rejects them. The point is that a pure devotee is so much absorbed in the transcendental loving service of the Lord that he has no time to think of any benefit beyond his immediate engagement. Just as an ordinary materialistic businessman thinks of nothing else when he is absorbed in his business, a pure devotee, when engaged in the service of the Lord, does not think of anything beyond that engagement. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you, Dandavat Pranam. So here, the definition of pure devotional service is given. Anya Abhilashita Shunyam. Anya Abhila. Anya Abhilasha means no other desire. Right? All our other desires of merging with the Lord, having the opulence of the Lord, having the beautiful bodily features of the Lord, to want to live in the same planet as the Lord, or even lower desires like material sense gratification. One has to give up all of that. Anya Abhilashita has to become zero. Right? Slowly, as we are trying to reduce, we are increasing our attachment to Krishna, and then our attachment to Maya, it is reduced, isn't it? So automatically it will be reduced, but we need to take endeavor so it becomes to zero, right? Because that is the practice or the standard that is specified. Anya Abhilashita Shunyam. Then Jnana Karmadi Anavritam. That means we should not indulge in mental speculation, thinking that, oh, I should do this, that such a person is doing, I should also do that. Maybe that will help, or maybe this will help me in advancing in devotional service. No maybe business, right? Because Prabhupada has given us very clear things to do. ABCD square will help us to attain love for Krishna and remove all the material attachments, right? So Jnana Karmadi Anavritam, not indulging in mental speculation, not indulging in certain work, thinking that it will help us, right? No intellectual concoctions, right? Anukulyena Krishna Anushilanam. Anukulyena, that means what is favorable to Krishna, that we should adopt, right? Anukulyena Krishna Anushilanam, following in the footsteps of our acharyas. That is Bhaktir Uttama, right? So Anukulye, there are 6 limbs of surrender given by Prabhupada is explaining very nicely in the 18.65 verse. Sarvadharman Parityaja Mamikam Sharanam Vraja Am Duam Sarva Bapebhyo Mokshishami Mashucha. In that purport, we can read that later. So in that purport, Prabhupada actually gives this verse: Anukulyasya Sankalpa Pratikulyasya Varjanam. Right? That means what? We have to accept everything that is favorable for our advancement in devotional service, and we have to reject everything that is unfavorable. There is no choice. There is no room for philosophical speculation like that. That's what is mentioned here. So we have to simply follow the footsteps of our acharyas, and such a devotee automatically engages in the service of the Lord, and which is not hampered by material desires. Which is not, that is why it is said, ahaituki apratihata. It has to be unmotivated and it has to be uninterrupted. Only then it can be rendered as pure devotional service. Otherwise, it is happening according to my mood. Whenever I like to serve the Lord, I will serve. When I don't have the mood, I will not serve. That is not pure devotional service. That is also sense gratification. Because I am trying to derive pleasure by serving the Lord. But what are we supposed to do? We are supposed to give pleasure to the Lord as we are engaged in devotional service. So that is the mood in which a devotee has to develop this devotional service. That is what it says, anukulyena, right? That means, yeah, there's Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha and all. They also gave pleasure to the Lord, right? They fought with the Lord enjoyed the Virya Ras. But did the Lord was definitely pleased with them. But what did they do? They did do devotional service. They didn't do pure devotional service, right? Of course, they are pure devotees of the Lord, Jaya Vijaya, who came down. But in the real sense of what activities they did, they fought with the Lord, they brought the earth down. In this way, they made the Lord come and fight with them. Of course, the Lord enjoyed Virya Ras because they are devotees of the Lord. But their intention was not to please the Lord. Their intention was to conquer all the three worlds, to become very powerful, to actually dethrone the asuras and capture the heavenly kingdom, become the king of the heavenly planets. That was their intention. So that is not pure devotional service. Even if we do something that really pleases the Lord, it really matters what is the intention with which I perform that seva. Even if it pleased the Lord, if our intention was not to please the Lord, then we don't get the benefit of performing pure devotional service like that. Okay, there's some work going on at home. So there may be some little disturbance, background noise. So apologies for that. Let's continue reading. That's why I'm muting myself. Okay, Sindhu Mataji, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, pranams Mataji. Hare Krishna, from where Mataji?
Devotional service is pure when one engages without any...
Hari Bol Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Devotional service is pure when one engages in the service of the Supreme Lord without any selfish motive and without being hampered by any material impediment. The pure devotee does not desire to live on the same planet as the Supreme Lord, nor does he desire the same opulence as the Lord, nor does he desire to have the same form as the Lord, not to live with him side by side, not to merge into his existence. Even if the Lord offers the pure devotee such rewards, he rejects them. The point is that a pure devotee is so much absorbed in the transcendental loving service of the Lord that he has no time to think of any benefit beyond his immediate engagement. Just as an ordinary materialistic businessman thinks of nothing else when he is absorbed in his business, a pure devotee, when engaged in the service of the Lord, does not think of anything beyond that engagement. One who possesses the symptoms described above has been elevated to the topmost position of devotional service, and it is by such transcendental loving service alone that one can surpass the influence of Maya and relish pure love of Godhead. As long as one desires material benefit or liberation, which are called the two witches of allurement, one cannot relish the taste of transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord. There are three stages of devotional service. The first is the beginning stage of cultivation. Second is the realization of service. The third, the supreme stage, is the attainment of love of Godhead. There are 9 different methods of cultivating devotional service: hearing, chanting, remembering, etc. And all these processes are employed by the neophyte in the first stage. If one is engaged in chanting and hearing with devotion and faith, his material misgivings gradually become vanquished. As his faith in devotional service increases more and more, he becomes assured of a higher perfectional position. In this way, one becomes firmly fixed in devotional service, increases his taste for it, becomes attached to it, and feels ecstasy, the preliminary stage of love of Godhead. Attainment of ecstasy is found by executing this process of cultivating devotional service. When one continues the process of hearing and chanting, attachment to Krishna gradually thickens and at last is called the love of Godhead. Hare, continue, Mataji. In the stage of transcendental love of God, there are further developments known as transcendental affection, emotion, ecstasy, and extreme and intense attachment. These are technically known by the terms raga, anuraga, bhava, and mahabhava. The progress from one stage to another is like thickening of sugarcane juice. In the first stage, sugarcane juice is a thin liquid. When by evaporation it becomes thicker and thicker, it turns into molasses. Then it turns into granules of sugar, then rock candy, and so on. Just as sugarcane juice progresses from one stage to another, similarly, the transcendental love for the Supreme Lord develops by stages. When one actually becomes situated on the transcendental platform, he becomes steady. Unless one is so situated, his position is not steady or he may fall down. When one is actually situated transcendentally, there is no fear of falling down. This stage is technically called Sthai Bhava. There are further developments within this stage known as Vibhava, Anubhava, Satvika, and Vyabhichari. When these four ingredients are added to the steadfast position of pure transcendental life, there is actually an exchange of rasa or transcendental mellows with the Supreme Lord. This exchange in loving reciprocation between the lover and the beloved is generally called Krishna Bhakti Rasa, the transcendental taste of exchanging loving sentiments between a devotee and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It should be noted, however, that the transcendental loving exchanges stand on the steadfast position of Sthai Bhava as explained above. The basic principle of Vibhava is Sthai Bhava, and all the other activities are auxiliary for the development of transcendental love.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Madhuri. So here the different stages of the mood, right from Shraddha to Krishna Prema, they actually describe here. Right? So what is Sthai Bhava? Sthai Bhava is the level wherein I know what is my constitutional position. Jivera Swarupe Krishna Nitya Das. It's not simply theoretical understanding, but actually living by that principle. Sthai Bhava means I know my position in the spiritual world also. What is my Sthai Bhava? What is my mood of service to the Lord in the spiritual world? Right? That is the highest platform, right? Where one actually experiences the various, Vibhava, Anubhava, Satvika, Vyabhichari, all of these emotions are experienced by a devotee. And then Prabhupada actually explains how one attains this stage. It gives an example of how sugarcane, right? The more and more, the thickening happens, right? We also know how the kheer is prepared, right? We just, allow it to boil and boil and boil and boil and then becomes like rubbery, isn't it? And then it becomes so tasteful, right? But initially it involves a lot of effort. It involves a lot of time, right? So that is what we develop by our process of chanting, hearing, association of devotees, sadhu sangha, bhajana kriya. And then what happens? Our anarthas get slow and slowly our anarthas get cleared. And then we are firmly established in chanting Hare Krishna, which is Nishtha. And after that only, we will start experiencing the taste, right? The sugarcane juice, just like a person who has jaundice cannot experience the taste of sugarcane juice. But that is the remedy, right? We don't have taste in chanting, that is the remedy. We don't have taste in hearing about Krishna, but that is the remedy. As we continue to perform this remedy, we will get taste for chanting. We will get taste for hearing. We will get taste in associating with the Lord, with the devotees. And then finally, when we attain the state of Krishna Prema, then we realize what is our Sthai Bhava. We realize what is the rasa that we have with the Supreme Lord, whether it is Dasya Rasa or Sakya Rasa or Vatsalya Rasa, Madhuri, whatever be the rasa. For now we can understand that I am to serve the Lord as a Dasya, as a servant, right? Even in the spiritual world, but even if we have Madhurya Rasa, it is always going to be accompanied by Seva Bhav. Right? If we don't have the Seva Bhav, we cannot qualify ourselves, or we cannot even get the mercy to qualify for any relationship with the Supreme Lord. Our Sthai Bhava will be revealed to the extent we want to render service to the Lord. And such service has to be unmotivated and uninterrupted. Only then we are progressing in bhakti. Right? And the highest stage of progress is when one attains Krishna Prema. And that time Krishna reveals to us. When we love Krishna so much that we want to render service to Krishna, irrespective of whatever happens to me, that is the stage Krishna will reveal what is your rasa with me. That is called as Sthai Bhava. All right. So let's move ahead. Who wants to read next? Okay, Rohini Mataji, go ahead. The ecstasy of transcendental love. After this, we'll go to Bhagavad Gita. Yeah.
Pranam Mataji. The ecstasy of transcendental love has two components, the context and the cause of excitement. The context is also divided into two parts, the subject and the object. The exchange of devotional service is the subject, and Krishna is the object. His transcendental qualities are the causes of excitement. This means that the devotee who becomes enamored by the transcendental qualities of Krishna becomes excited to serve him. The impersonal Mayavadi philosophers say that the absolute truth is nirguna, without qualities, but the Vaishnava philosophers say that the absolute truth is described as nirguna because he has no material qualities. This is not to say that he has no spiritual qualities. Indeed, the Lord's spiritual qualities are so great and so enchanting that even liberated persons become attracted to him. This is explained in the Atmarama verse of Srimad Bhagavatam 1.7.10, where it is said that those who are always situated on the platform of self-realization are attracted by the transcendental qualities of Krishna. This means that Krishna's qualities are not material but are pure and transcendental. The highest stage of ecstasy is characterized by the following 13 transcendental activities: dancing, rolling on the floor, singing, clapping, stretching the body, thundering, yawning, breathing heavily, forgetting social conventions, drooling, laughing, shaking the head, and hiccoughing. All these symptoms are not awakened simultaneously. They appear according to the exchange of transcendental mellows. Sometimes one symptom is prominent and at another time another is prominent. There are 5 transcendental rasas or mellows. The initial stage is called Shantarati, where one who is liberated from material contamination appreciates the greatness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One who attains this stage does not exactly engage in transcendental loving service of the Lord, for this is the neutral stage. In the second stage, which is called Dasyarati, a person appreciates his position as being everlastingly subordinate to the Supreme Lord, and he understands that he is eternally dependent on the causeless mercy of the Supreme Person. At that time, there is an awakening of natural affection, such as is felt by a son who grows up and begins to appreciate his father's benedictions. At this stage, the living entity wants to serve the Supreme Lord instead of serving Maya illusion. The third stage is the development of transcendental love is called Sakhyarati. In this stage, one associates with the Supreme as a friend on an equal level, with love and respect. At this stage, as this stage is further developed, there is joking and such relaxed exchanges as laughing. On this level, there are fraternal exchanges with the personality of Godhead, and one is free from all bondage. One forgets his inferior position as a living entity, but at the same time, he has the greatest respect for the Supreme Person. In the fourth stage called Vatsalyarati, the fraternal affection of the preceding stage develops into parental affection. At this time, the living entity acts as the parent of the God. Instead of worshipping the Lord, the living entity as a parent of the Supreme Person becomes an object of worship for him. At this stage, the Lord depends on the mercy of his pure devotee and puts himself under the control of the devotee to be raised nicely. Such a devotee can embrace the Supreme Lord and even kiss his head. In the fifth stage called Madhura Rati, there is transcendental exchange of conjugal love between the lover and the beloved. It is at this stage that Krishna and the damsels of Braja glance lovingly at one another, for on this platform there is an exchange of glances, movements of the eyebrows, pleasant words, attractive smiles, etc.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
So here the primary rasas end here, and then Prabhupada is going to talk about the secondary rasas, which are 7 in number. So totally there are 12 rasas. 5 are primary rasas: Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. These are the 5 primary rasas. And then you have the 7 secondary rasas, which are like Hasya, which are like those rasas which bring about more emotions, right? We can call about more connection or more emotions in the relationship, right? Which adds to the flavor of Madhurya or Sakya or Dasya rasa. And here we also saw how Prabhupada is talking about how each rasa is the previous rasa plus an additional quality. Previous rasa plus an additional quality. So in Dasya rasa, there is only servitude. In what you call Sakya rasa, there is servitude. Definitely servitude is there in everything. And along with servitude, there is also friendship. That means they talk to each other as equals. right? And in Vatsalya Ras, there is servitude, there is talking, like how you talk to friends, you talk to your parents also. But in Vatsalya Rasa, what happens? The Lord thinks himself subordinate to his parents, right? The Lord is being bound by his mother, right? He becomes subordinate to his mother. That's Vatsalya. And Madhurya Rasa is the Lord completely becomes subjugated by the love of his devotees, that he is willing to do anything for them, right? That is, Madhurya is divided into Parakya Ras and Swakya Ras. Parakya, this is with the gopis in Vrindavan Dham, right? Parakya Bhave Jaha Brajete Prachar, right? That is, the devotees of Vrindavan Dham alone enjoy this Parakya Bhava. Otherwise, Swakya Bhava is the relationship between husband and a wife, right? So in this way, the Lord exchanges so many loving relationships with his devotees. And every relationship, the devotee feels that I'm having the best relationship with the Lord. At no point that a devotee becomes envious. Oh, why this person is having a Sakya Ras, I'm only having a Dasya Ras. No, there is no such thing as envy in the spiritual world. Right? Envy means itself there is no vacancy in the spiritual world. So everybody is happy with their own relationship with the Lord, and they try to serve the Lord to the best possible ability. That should be the mood. Even in this material world, if we have that kind of mood, then there is Goloka Vrindavan even within this material world. With that, we'll end teachings of Lord Chaitanya. Tomorrow we'll continue with the 7 other secondary rasas, and then how the interplay between primary and secondary rasas will happen. Now we will start with Bhagavad Gita. Grantaraj teachings of Lord Chaitanya ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we are on chapter 6. We completed our chapter 5, which was more of practical application of how we perform Karma Yoga. That means how we perform our duty, irrespective of whatever our position is. Right? Whether we are a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra, or whether we are Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, or Sannyasi. Of course, most of us here, or all of us here, I can say, we are all Grihasthas. Right? As Grihastha, what is our predominant duty? Our predominant duty is to perform charity. Why? When we perform charity with our hard-earned money, what do we develop? We develop detachment to the things that can be bought from that hard-earned money. When we develop detachment to material objects, that is also a way by which we develop attachment for Krishna. And that also, charity has to be given to a proper person, at a proper time, in a proper place. Then only it will lead to advancement in Krishna Bhakti. So after having explained this, that perform your work, perform your duty, knowing yourself to not be the only doer, right? That the 3 doers, you are only a desirer. And then there is the permitter, which is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then there is the Prakriti, which is actually sanctioning, which is actually arranging all of those things based on the sanction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So with that, we ended our 5th chapter, which is Karma Yoga, action in Krishna consciousness. And then we are now moving to the 6th chapter. The 6th chapter is the last chapter of Sankhya Yoga, right? The first 6 chapters are Karma Yoga, actually. That means, how do we put our Sankhya? Second chapter was predominantly dealing with Sankhya Yoga. And 3, 4, 5, 6. 3, 4, 5 predominantly. Krishna is explaining to us how do we apply that Sankhya Yoga and perform karma in a way that helps us advance in devotional service. How do we perform Karma Yoga? What is Karma Yoga? How do we perform our regular activities in Karma Yoga as Karma Yoga? And then in the 6th chapter, Prabhupada is, Lord Krishna is going to give us the Dhyana Yoga. When it is Dhyana Yoga also, in the end of this chapter, Prabhupada is going to say, Yoginam api sarvesham. Prabhupada is going to declare who is the best kind of yogi in this chapter. Right? So this is one of the biggest chapters in the Bhagavad Gita. There are about 47 verses, if I'm right. So let's start with the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. This is entitled Dhyana Yoga, that is meditation, right? And what we have to meditate, and what is the and who is the best yogi, right? Prabhupada is going to describe in the purport various types of yogas and various types of yogis. And finally, Krishna declares who is the best yogi, and Prabhupada also declares in that purport who is the best yogi and how can one become such a best yogi like that. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Chapter 6, Dhyana Yoga. Sarvagopi.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Jnana Yoga, number 1. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, Anashrita Karma Phalam, Karyam Karma Karoti Aham, Sa Sannyasi Cha Yogi Cha, Niragni Na Chakriyaham. Shri Bhagavan. Shall I read the word by word? Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, the Lord said, it's not moving. The Lord said, Anashritaha, without taking shelter, karma phalam, work, karyam, obligatory, karma, work, karoti, perform, ya, one who, sa, he, sannyasi, in the renounce order, cha, also, yogi, mystic, cha, also, na, not, niha, without, agnihi, fire, na, nor, cha, also, akriyaha, without duty. Translation purport by Sri Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, one who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as he is obligated is in the renounced order of life, and he is the true mystic, no, not he who lights the no fire and performs no duty. Purport. In this chapter, Lord explains the process of eightfold yoga system is a means to control the mind and the senses. However, this is very difficult for people in general to perform, especially in the age of Kali. Although the eightfold yoga system is recommended in this chapter, the Lord emphasizes that the process of karma yoga or acting in Krishna consciousness is better. Everyone acts in the world to maintain his family and their paraphernalia, but no one is working without the same self-interest. Some personal gratification, be it concentrated or extended. The criterion of perfection is to act in Krishna consciousness and not with a view to enjoying the fruits of work. To act in the Krishna consciousness is the duty of every living entity, because all are constitutionally the part and parcel of the Supreme. The parts of the body work for the satisfaction of the whole body. The whole cycle. Hare Krishna. The whole.
Hare Krishna.
I don't know where. Constant parcel. The parts and parts of the body work for the satisfaction of the whole body. The limbs of the body do not act for self-satisfaction, but for the satisfaction of the complete whole. Similarly, the living entity who acts for satisfaction of the supreme whole and not for personal satisfaction is the perfect sannyasi, the perfect yogi. Hare Krishna, shall I continue? The sannyasis sometimes artificially think that they have become liberated from all material duties, and therefore they cease to perform Agnihotra yajnas, fire sacrifices. But actually they are self-interested because their goal is to become one with the impersonal Brahman. Such a desire is greater than the material desire, but it is not without the self-interest. Similarly, the mystic yogi who practices the yoga system with half-open eyes, ceasing all material activities, desires some satisfaction for his personal self. But a person acting in Krishna consciousness works for the satisfaction of the whole without self-interest. A Krishna conscious person has no desire for self-satisfaction. His criterion of success is the satisfaction of Krishna, and thus he is the perfect sannyasi or perfect yogi. Lord Chaitanya, the highest perfectional symbol of renunciation, prays in this way. Na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, kavitamba jagadisha kamaye, mama janmani janmani ishware bhavatat bhakti ahetuki tvayi. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor to enjoy beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. What I want only is the causeless mercy of your devotional service in my life, birth after birth.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Na sundari, kavitamba jagadish kamaye. Right? So I perform devotional service not as a deal to get anything else in return. Right? Na dhanam, na janam, na sundari. right? I don't want wealth. I don't want followers. I don't want wealth. I don't want name, fame, glory. I don't want followers. What I want simply causeless devotional service unto your lotus feet. And a person who works in this way is the perfect sannyasi, right? In the 18th chapter, Arjuna is going to ask Krishna, who is better, a tyagi or a sannyasi, right? A sannyasi is just a social order, right? It's a spiritual order, brahmacharya, vanaprastha, grihastha, and sannyasi. So a sannyasi is an order of life wherein one actually does this, becomes a parivrajaka acharya. That means he goes around spreading the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But that is just an order of life, right? Whereas one can be a grihastha, one can be a brahmachari, one can be a vanaprastha, yet one can follow the principles of tyaga and in his consciousness be a sannyasi. One need not wear a saffron cloth. One need not carry a three danda, but can still employ his manasa vacha and manasa deho geho, right? Thought, word, and deed. Thought, word, and deed in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then one actually utilizes everything in the service of the Lord. Such a person is already is a sannyasi, right? Prabhupada translates as not a person who does not light fire or one does not perform his duty. No, that's not a sannyasi. Even sannyasi has a duty. He has to go around. He cannot stick to one place. He has to go around preaching. It is said that a sannyasi and a pure devotee stays at a particular place only until the time of milking of a cow, right? Which is said to be one muhurta, right? And after beyond that time, the sannyasi has to move, giving that person Krishna consciousness, and then he has to move to the next house or he has to move to the other place like that, right? So this is what is actual consciousness of a sannyasi, not to not perform any work, right? Prabhupada lit fire, Prabhupada cooked, Prabhupada crossed the ocean, Prabhupada went. Prabhupada not a sannyasi. Prabhupada is the most exemplary sannyasi because he did everything for the pleasure of the Lord, like that. Okay, Raki Asrani Mataji, please go ahead. Text number 2.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat.
Text number 2. Yam sannyasam iti prahura yogam tama vidhi pandava na hai asantanasta astanasta sankalpo yogi bhavati kaschana. Mataji, thoda upar scroll karna Mataji. You just scroll it. Shall I read the synonyms? No need, na?
Mataji, please read the synonyms.
Okay.
Word to word meaning.
Yam what? Sannyasam is reunionization. Iti, thus, prahura, they say, yogam, linking with the supreme, tam, that, vidhi, you must know, Pandava, O son of Pandu, na, never, he, certainly, a sannyasta, without giving up, sankalpaha, desire for self-satisfaction, yogi, a mystic transcendentalist, bhavati, becomes, kaschana, anyone. Translation, what is called renunciation? You should know that the same as yoga or linking oneself with the Supreme, O son of Pandu, for one cannot never become a yogi unless he renounces the desire for sense gratification. Purport. Real sannyas yoga or bhakti means that one should know his constitutional position as the living entity and act accordingly. The living entity has no separate independent identity. He is the marginal energy of the Supreme. When he is entrapped by material energy, he is conditioned. When he is Krishna conscious or aware of or Krishna consciousness or aware of or aware of the spiritual energy, that he is in the real and natural state of life. Therefore, when one is in complete knowledge or one ceases all material sense gratification or renounces all kinds of sense gratificatory activities. This is practiced by the yogis who restrain the senses from the material and attachment. But a person in Krishna consciousness has no opportunity to engage his senses in anything which is not for the purpose of Krishna. Therefore, a Krishna conscious person is simultaneously a sannyasi and a yogi. The purpose of knowledge and of restraining the senses, as described in the jnana and yoga processes, is automatically served in Krishna consciousness. If one is unable to give up the activities of his selfish nature, the jnana and the yoga are of no avail. The real aim is for living entity is to give up all such selfish satisfaction and to be prepared to satisfy the Supreme. A Krishna conscious person has no desire for any kind of self-enjoyment, is always engaged for the enjoyment of the Supreme. One who has no information of the Supreme must therefore be engaged in self-satisfaction because no one can stand on the platform of inactivity. All purposes are perfectly served by the practice of Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you. So the process of jnana and yoga are automatically covered in bhakti. The other day we were giving the example of how 200 rupee note automatically includes 2 rupees and 20 rupees. One need not endeavor separately for 2 rupees and 20 rupees when one already has a 200 rupee note, right? Which already has a 2 and 20 in it. Similarly, Bhakti Yoga already encompasses jnana and yoga, right? What is jnana? Jnana means theoretical knowledge, right? What I should be doing, yama, niyama, pranayama, pratyahara, dhyana, dharana, samadhi, right? All of these processes help us try to attain the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? To go beyond the 3 modes of material nature. And what is yoga? Yoga means to establish a connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead through Karma Yoga, through Jnana Yoga, through Ashtanga Yoga, etc. Right? So Bhakti serves the purpose of both Jnana and Yoga because one works for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. So one automatically satisfies the Lord much more easier than the process of Jnana or even the process of other kinds of yogas like Ashtanga Yoga, etc. Okay, let's move on to text number 3. Namkishori Mataji, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Mataji, can you please recite the sloka? Can you please recite the sloka?
Okay. Arurukshor yogam karma karanamuchyate yogarudasya tasyaiva shamha karanamuchyate. So what translation? Go ahead, Madam.
Thank you, Mataji. Should I read synonym or direct translation?
Synonyms.
Okay, Mataji. Aruruksha, who has just begun yoga, Muneha of the sage, Yogam, the eightfold yoga system, Karma, Varka, Karanama, the means, Uchete is said to be yoga, eightfold yoga, Arudhasya, of one who has attained, Tasya, he is Eva, certainly Samaha, cessation of all material activities, Karanam, the means, Uchete, it's said to be. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. For one who is a neophyte in the eightfold yoga system, work is said to be the means, and for one who is already elevated in yoga, cessation of all material activities is said to be the means. Purport: the process of linking oneself with the Supreme is called yoga. It may be compared to a ladder for attaining the topmost spiritual realization. This ladder begins from the lowest material conditions of the living entities and rises up to perfect self-realization in pure service spiritual life. According to various elevations, different parts of the ladder are known by different names, but all in all, the complete ladder is called yoga and may be divided into 3 parts, namely Gnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. The beginning of the ladder is called the Yoga Rukshu stage, and the highest rug is called Yoga Rudha. Concerning the eightfold yoga system, attempt in the beginning to enter into meditation through regulative principles of life and practice of different sitting postures, which are more or less bodily exercises, are considered fruitive material activities. All such activities lead to achieving perfect material equilibrium to control the senses. When one is accomplished in the practice of meditation, he sees all disturbing mental activities. A Krishna conscious person, however, is situated from the beginning of the platform of the meditation because he always thinks of Krishna and being constantly engaged in in the service of Krishna. He is considered to have ceased all material activities. Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. So, so the yoga and the jnana process, one has to continue doing that process, and when one is successful, that means when one has reached the ultimate goal of jnana and yoga, they reach the supreme personality of Godhead, right? It's not that the paths lead somewhere else, right? The yogi is actually going to see Paramatma in his heart, and the jnani is going to actually understand that Krishna is the supreme Lord, and I have to reach him. Right? That understanding of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is what everybody reaches. But the path is so difficult. And until one reaches the end, one cannot be called successful. Whereas Bhakti Yoga is only path. Wherein during the practice stage itself, right, we don't lose or diminish. There is no loss or diminution. For example, if there is an Ashtangi Yogi, right, he has completed Yama, Niyama, Asana, Dharana, but he's stuck at Dharana. He's not able to progress further. He's not able to see Paramatma within his heart. It's not that the next life he automatically starts with dharana. No. You should again do yama niyama. Right? But only in Bhakti Yoga, when one does service, then Krishna himself tells that Niha Vikramanashosti Pratyavayona Vidyate Swalpam Abhiyasya Dharmasya Trayate Mahato Bayat. Right? This process of devotional service is so wonderful that if one renders service to the Supreme Lord, he never forgets. He never forgets any service. It may be stringing of garland, it may be singing of bhajan, it may be performing arati, it may be any service that we've done for the Supreme Lord. The Lord always remembers every small seva that we've done, and there is no loss or diminution in this path. Every seva that we do is helping us becoming a better devotee. So in the platform or in the process of performing devotional service itself, one experiences bliss, and there is no diminution also, because the advantage or the benefit of performing devotional service only increases. It can never come down, as per the words of Krishna himself. Okay, next verse. We'll end with this. Who'll read this? Okay, let me read. Text number 4. Okay, Rohini Mataji, go ahead.
Mataji, the shloka after you.
Yada hinendriyarteshu na karmashvanu sajjate sarva sankalpa sannyasi yoga rudha tadochyate. Synonyms, what were translation? Oh, Mataji, are you saying something? You're not audible.
I'm not audible?
Now it's okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yada, when, he, certainly, na, not, indriya artheshu, in sense gratification, na, never, karmasu, in fruitive activities, anusajjate, one necessarily engages, sarva sankalpa, of all material desires, sannyasi, renouncer, yoga arudha, elevated in yoga, tada, at that time, uchyate, is said to be. Translation: a person is said to be elevated in yoga when, having renounced all material desires, he neither acts for sense gratification nor engages in fruitive activities. Purport: when a person is fully engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, he is pleased in himself, and thus he is no longer engaged in sense gratification or in fruitive activities. Otherwise, one must be engaged in sense gratification, since one cannot live without engagement. Without Krishna consciousness, one must be always seeking self-centered or extended selfish activities. But a Krishna-conscious person can do everything for the satisfaction of Krishna and thereby be perfectly detached from sense gratification. One who has no such realization must mechanically try to escape material desires before being elevated to the top rung of the yoga ladder. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Yeah, so the same point is being elaborated by Prabhupada here. Right? One who is in the yoga ladder has to reach the top rung of the yoga ladder to attain, to attain even the zero. Because no material desires means it is zero platform. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na shochati na kankshati. No lamentation, no hankering. That is zero platform. From there only bliss will start, provided one somehow gets connected to a devotee, one starts performing devotional service. Because bliss is always associated only with devotional service. We cannot get bliss by either attaining Paramatma realization or by merging with the Brahman effulgence of the Lord. There cannot be any bliss. We can only realize the Sat and the Chit features of the Lord. But the Ananda feature of the Lord can be attained, can be realized, can be experienced by the devotee only when one actually engages in the devotional service of the Lord. And that's what is mentioned here in this verse, that all the other processes can give us perfect detachment from sense gratification, But attachment to Krishna only gives us bliss. And that attachment to Krishna is available from day one, from the practice of devotional service. That means we engage Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchyate. We engage in the service of the Lord, it gives us bliss from day one. Whereas the other processes, it has to be completely realized, and from then onwards, after having attained the success of that particular process, then only bliss will start, provided one starts engaging in devotional service. Hare Krishna. So with this, we will end our session today. If any devotee has any doubts or queries, you may raise your hands. We'll quickly do a 2-minute Harinam Sankirtan. Devotees can also switch on your cameras if possible. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswata Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Pachatyadishatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra Jaya Sudarshana Jaya Balagopal Jaya Balagopal Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Gurudev Gurudev Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय। जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद श्रील गुरुदेव की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णवा वृंद की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। Hare Krishna. So I am seeing Rohini Mataji, Raki Esrani Mataji joined us a very long time. Thank you. Dushamanu Kanya Mataji, I cannot see you, but your video is on. I'm able to see your clock maybe. Sarva Gopishri Mataji, Karpagavali Mataji, Sudha Mataji, Sindhu Mataji, Hare Krishna. Thank you all very much for joining in. Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Ananda Koti Vaishnava Vrindi ki jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Srila Gurudev ki jai. All right, so devotees, from today onwards, we will have to do the setup of the Zoom and all. So we will be having 3 Sandhya program, like I announced. So first and foremost, thank you all the devotees who have contributed for the Zoom subscription. Very grateful to all of you. You all find it, in some way adding some value to your devotional life. Thank you so much for your contribution. I'm actually overwhelmed. I did not expect such a wonderful response from all the devotees. So I asked Radhisham Prabhu. So Prabhu said, instead of Krishna book, he said, start with teachings of Queen Kunti. Study that in the evening Sandhya program. So you can all raise your hands. For a personal this thing, I thought I will take a sankalpa that generally I sleep a little late in the night and then I wake up in the morning. So it's not very good for proper sadhana in the morning, right? So I was thinking that the evening Sandhya program will be the last time that I would have my digital apparatus open for the day. That means my mobile will be switched off. After that, my laptop will be switched off after this 15-minute session. So let's have a raise of hands. I would say 8:30 p.m. If it's good for all of you, we can have it at 8:30 to 8:45 or 8:45 to 9. But we will start and end on the dot. It may not happen in the initial days, but we will try to do that. But at least we will close latest by 9 o'clock. Yeah. So can we have it 8:45? Raise of hands, or 8:30 or 9? Then we can end at 9:15. Okay. So let's say 8:30 p.m. Who are all okay for it? Okay. 1, 2, 3. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. 5 are okay. and 8:30. 8:30. Please raise your virtual hands. I cannot see because 2 hands are already raised. I don't know whether for what they've raised their hands. No, Mataji, I have my class. Okay. So what about 9 o'clock? Some people are not raising hands at all. So I believe they don't want to join. That's fine. So it's purely voluntary. Yeah? It's not after 9 p.m. Okay. So we will 9 to 9:15 is okay. Please raise your virtual hands. Okay, 1, 2, okay, 3, 4, 5. Okay, Rohini Mataji, 9 doesn't work for you? Oh, okay. Can everybody unmute yourself or no? Oh, okay, okay. So devotees can unmute yourself. Okay.
Mataji,
So,
Mataji, 9:30.
yeah.
Mataji,
Huh?
9:30, Mataji. Mataji, 9:30, because Bhakti Sangha, the Chaitanya Bhagavad class is going from 8:30 to 9:30, no? That's why after 9:30 to 9:45, okay, Mataji.
Oh, that will be too late. Because, you know, we are
Okay,
9 to 12, we need to sleep.
Mataji, after 9:15
Because
anytime.
if we sleep from 9 to 12, it is 1 hour is equal to 3 hours or 2 hours of sleep.
Okay, Mataji. 8:45 to 9, Mataji. 8:45
okay.
to 9.
8:45 to 9. Okay, let's keep it. Is it okay?
Please,
Rakesh Rani Mataji is
Mataji.
fine. Anjuna Mataji,
Mataji,
I don't know
keep
what your
after
hand is raised for.
9:15
I
now.
can't see you.
One request, Mataji. Thursday we have Anantashesh Prabhu's program class, na 8:15 to 9. Thursday
8 to
will not.
9. Oh, okay. What do we do now? Okay, let's keep it at 7:30 then. You know, let's do other things.
Yes, Mataji. 7:30, okay.
7:30 is fine for everybody?
Yes, Mataji. Yes, Mataji. Yes.
Okay, so let's do it
Okay.
7:30 to 7:45 then. Okay?
Yes, Mataji. Yes,
Can we have
Mataji.
show of hands?
7:30 is fine, Mataji.
Okay,
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. So let's do it at 7:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time. We'll start today and see how it goes. Okay, thank you. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Gurudev ki jai. Ananta Koti